Joining us now is Dr Dean Eggitt, GP in Doncaster and CEO of Doncaster Local Medical Committee. Thank you for joining us. First question, why are people rushing to go to Turkey for these procedures?
It seems quite obvious to me, JJ. If anything, actually, it seems quite interesting to me. The idea of spending some time in the sun, relaxing, holidaying, and getting surgery cheaper than you would get it in the UK. What's not to love? It sounds brilliant. Apart from, it really isn't that brilliant. Anything that sounds that good, it's too good to be true.
Well, are there not any rules in place already to stop this from happening?
Well, there are laws in the UK, of course, that show or guide us on how we should deliver surgery, how we should practice medicine. But that doesn't mean to say that people can't come to the UK and try to entice you to take a package of care elsewhere. And when you're in that home country, a different country, Turkey is the example that you gave, then the laws and governance around how quality of care is delivered is different in that country. And then the UK has no legitimacy over how care is delivered in that place. The problem being, of course, that you don't really know what you're going to get until you get it. And there are consequences from that.
So is there more that our government can be doing to stop, I'm going to have to say, stupid Brits from going across there and doing this? And I call them stupid because we've had several deaths. Everyone knows the risks associated with going to Turkey now. It's not brain surgery, right? It's not brain science. So what can the government do more to stop these stupid Brits from going across and risking their lives in Turkey?
Well, before I come to that, if that's okay, I think I might point out some of the risks because I'm not sure that everyone is aware of the risks.
Please do.
So when traveling out of the UK, you don't get the same level of quality assurance that you're going to get here in the UK. So there's a reason why doctors have to work to a very high level of quality here in the UK, essentially because the law forces us to. And if the law doesn't force you to, and you're ethically minded to reduce your quality, then what you actually might get is, for example, a medical implant that isn't regulated. It might be a fake medical implant. It might not necessarily even be the surgeon who is qualified to do the procedure, or you don't know how many procedures they've done. So you don't know if they know what they're doing. You don't know if they're qualified to do what they're doing. And you don't know if the kit that they're using is of the high standard that it should be. Now, the consequence of that then might be that something goes wrong during the procedure, something goes wrong during the surgery. Or, God forbid, an implant is put into you that isn't regulated and turns out to be rejected by your body, or the circumstances under which the procedure is done is dirty, so you might get an infection. Now, of course, if something goes into your body that's not supposed to be there, you're going to get ill. If you get an infection, it's going to be pretty severe. Or if somebody makes a mess of you, you're going to be left with the consequence. You then have to somehow get back to the UK and find yourself repaired. So what can the UK government do about it? Well, education. Because the UK government can't change the laws across the world. But what they can do is help people to realise the risks of travelling abroad, having surgery, and coming back and putting up with the consequences of that.
OK, I've seen on the planes men with the bandage around the head, they've had their hair transplants in Turkey. But what is the most popular kind of surgery that us Brits are going over there to get?
So I won't be able to tell you the exact statistics, but the common sort of thing that I tend to see is dental. Now, people do go commonly to Turkey for their teeth to be done. And I'm sure we've all heard of the concept of turkey teeth, where you go where you have all your teeth filed down, you have them replaced, you have a wonderful holiday, and then you come home with nice, bright blue teeth. I guess part of the problem is UK NHS dentistry. So coming back to your question of what can the UK government do? Well, if you improve healthcare in the UK, people might not want to travel abroad. But there's always going to be some who want to travel abroad and go there, and they're going to come back, and mostly it's teeth and hair implants.
But Dr Dean, these are cosmetic surgeries, right? We're not talking about people who are going to Turkey to get their fillings replaced. They're going there to have their teeth straightened and they can have a nice Hollywood smile. Or, like me, they're losing a bit of hair at the front and they want to get that filled in. This isn't life-saving treatment they're going for. This is purely so they can look more attractive.
Well, you'd be surprised. Actually, what we see on the aeroplane are those people who've had hair implants or teeth implants because it stands out. But actually, many people are going abroad because the NHS is struggling. So we're seeing increasing numbers of people who might actually travel to Europe to have a hip replacement done or a knee replacement done. Actually, there is a legitimate way that you can have your surgery done in Europe, according to the S2 rule, where if you can't get your surgery done here in the UK within a reasonable time frame, you can actually ask NHS England to send you abroad to have the surgery done and have that paid for from the UK taxpayer and then come home. So actually, surgeons across Europe are increasingly being used for healthcare that just can't be provided in the UK. It's not all about cosmetics. In some cases, it really is about genuine healthcare.
Okay, but why are Brits being targeted so much? The Turks are coming across, going to our hotels, offering a discount if you bring your pets as well. Are we just a soft touch? Is that the problem?
I think the NHS at the moment is a soft touch. It's no secret to know that the NHS waiting lists are the biggest they've ever been. I'm sure you'll have viewers now sat down thinking, well, how can I get my hip done? How can I get my knee done? And they will probably be thinking about how to go abroad to travel now that we're talking about it in front of them. I think Brits are sitting ducks for this sort of surgery because our NHS is in such dire circumstance, which comes back to your original question, what can the UK government do about it? Well, fix the NHS. People wouldn't have to travel abroad if healthcare was reasonably available here in the UK. It's just not.
But Dr. Dean, you're not going to get a Brazilian butt lift on the NHS, are you? They're still going to have to go across to Turkey for that kind of treatment.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But if you want a Brazilian butt lift, that too is available here in the UK, just not on the NHS. So question I suppose you're asking is, well, why do people go across to Turkey for their Brazilian butt lift as opposed to your local clinic here in London or Manchester? Well, the simple fact behind that is cost. It's just very, very expensive to get any of that done in the UK, whereas it's quite cheap to get it done abroad. But as we said earlier, it's expensive in the UK because you are assured of quality. You know that what you're getting put into your body is real. You know the surgeon who has done this has done it many times before and is very qualified. You don't know that you're getting that if you go to Turkey. So you're taking a bit of a gamble. And I'm not quite sure that my life is worth that gamble. And what I'm looking for is brighter teeth, more hair, or a bigger bum. Honestly, I'd save my money or go to a surgeon in the UK.
Well then, Dr. Dean, it's not the NHS, is it then? That means it's your fault. You're charging too much money for these operations. That's why they're going to Turkey.
Yeah, I suppose it is. I'm quite happy to blame me as a GP, but the thing is, I'm an NHS GP, so I don't actually have any skin in this game other than looking out for my patients. So the reason behind the cost is not because of me as a doctor, me as a GP working in the NHS. The reason is because it's difficult to run any industry in the UK at the moment. And just like any industry, healthcare is an industry. So if you want to have a private operation, it costs in the UK because heating costs, lighting costs, rent costs, staff costs, everything is expensive in the UK. And of course, therefore, your operation is going to be more expensive. It's not about what you pay me as an NHS GP or what any of us in the NHS afford.
Well, Dr. Dean, final question. Would it not be possible, or even the smart thing to do, for our NHS to say, if you go abroad and you get some cosmetic surgery done in a country like Turkey and then you come back in, you've got something wrong with you, you have to go private. We will not take care of you. Wouldn't that be a good thing?
Well, actually, that discussion is already being had, and commonly it's being had with patients who go abroad for stomach surgery. So for those people who have a stomach sleeve, a gastric sleeve, to help reduce their weight, when you have that procedure done, in theory, it's a lower risk procedure. But when you come back to the UK, you tend to have lots and lots of vitamin deficiencies, and that tends to be lifelong. So somebody needs to monitor you. And the big question at the moment is, well, if you go to Turkey for a gastric sleeve and you come back and need lifelong monitoring, should the NHS pick up the bill? Now, I'm going to leave that one for your watchers and your viewers to feed back on, if that's okay, because my job as a GP is to look after you, not to provide political judgment on it.
Dr. Dean, a very political answer from you there. Thank you for your time.